Hello and welcome to this series that Fluency Security has put together known as Beers and Bytes. This is our attempt to come out into an environment that is so formal and bring forward an informal approach to talking about those things of InfoSec importance, but also to have some beer along the way and enjoy ourselves. As we take a look at this series, we have two primary co-hosts. That is Chris Jordan from Fluency Security, and then Jeremy Murtishaw from Fortify 24/7. And what you'll find throughout this series is that there will be many different discussion topics of interest to you. Some may or may not be, but that's okay. We hope that what you'll find is that these informal discussions are ways to provide you additional insights and value. With that, this first session in front of us, we will be talking about a cyber health check that has been put together as a combination of Fluency and with Fortify, where we go out and provide a value-added service, hopefully different than what you're used to in today's environments, and one that's more thorough and more competitive with what you have seen out there. In future series, you're going to see things such as threat intelligence committees that have just formed that are nonprofit worldwide. You're going to have discussions on new technologies, maybe around MITRE ATT&CK and how that can be implemented. So a lot of varied introductions as we go forward. We will make those intros ahead of each and every one of those sessions that you will find available to you. Thank you. All right there. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. What we are presenting here today is a new episode of Beer and Bytes, hosted by Chris Jordan of Fluency Security and Jeremy Murtishaw of Fortify 24/7. Our intention here today is not only to talk about cybersecurity, but it's also about showing you some of the more exotic IPA beers out there, and we can also talk about those as well. So yes, we'll talk about your favorite subject with cybersecurity, but by golly, we're also going to talk about our IPA beers. So with that,
IPAs, but we do have IPAs.
Let's start with that. And Chris and Jeremy, take it away.
All right. So I'm out here on the East Coast, close to Loudoun County, Virginia, which is known for their beers. And today I'm going to bring a solace beer. I got the Partly Cloudy. Look at that. Partly, once it focuses, beautiful can, 7.8% alcohol. It's a hazy IPA. I dig this stuff. I was going to go with the Juicy Lucy. I'll bring that next week, I think. But right now I'll do the solace with the Partly Cloudy. What you got, buddy? You have your bear honey? Your bees?
I do. I've got my duck foot drink this or the beers die. The golden honey ale. And it is delicious.
Excellent.
Not quite an IPA, but because of social distancing, the liquor store and I haven't been with each other.
Thanks to the success of whatever we're doing. So normally we plan to bring somebody on to talk about security, and we're going to keep on talking until we run out of our beers. Hence why I got a pint, and then hopefully it'll be longer than 5 minutes. And
it's going really well.
It's going excellent. I like that beer. And so we're both longtime security people, but obviously from different backgrounds. So it'd be good to have a discussion. One of the things we want to discuss today, though, is actually a project from Jeremy. It makes it easy because we don't have to tear somebody out of their livelihood and sit down to talk to us. And we can discuss something that we're working on and we're passionate about. So, Jeremy, you're doing something crazy. You're actually trying to change the way we do assessments. So we got this idea of a cyber healthcare or health check, and it's both active analysis and passive analysis. In other words, you're going to be just doing more than a Nessus scan. Nothing wrong with Tenable and all the work that's been done out there, but trying to add something more to it than just a scan and the results of the scan and get rid of the false positives of the scan, right?
Yeah, and I think that the intention of the cyber health check is really to take a holistic approach to penetration testing, right? Not just focusing on what's happening on the outside, but also focusing on what's happening on the inside as a consequence of the attack that's happening, really as a way to validate the financial investment that you've made in your security architecture is doing what it's expecting to do, or that your MSP who's monitoring your security logs is seeing what they should be seeing. So we've partnered with Fluency to create this cyber health check to ingest all of the data that's happening on the inside of the network while the external pen testing is occurring. That allows us to see if the security controls are flagging the activity that's happening. We're able to not only see what's happening as a consequence of what we're doing, but it's also looking to see if there's anything that's already happened or that's ongoing in the network during the pen test. And then lastly, it's also validating your security controls and procedures to make sure that the operations teams or the people that are supposed to be looking for these things are actually seeing the events that they're supposed to.
So that's a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a ton of stuff. So let's take a step back. So one of the things is this concept of like a security posture, right? So every company has a security posture, and most CISOs love that security posture to prevent everything, right? So you have all these prevention tools. You run a pen test, it fails, and they say, "Wow, I've got a wonderful posture," right? Now, obviously, that never happens. Two reasons. A lot of one reasons is that when we do assessments nowadays, it's almost what they call like purple teaming. That you're not only just attacking from the outside, but you get to see the inside, and you're scanning from the inside too, with the general belief that even though the pen test team might not know the failure for the perimeter, the attacker might, or somebody might click on something, right? So you could do social engineering stuff and everything like that, but in general, you're looking at, just like people say, hey, I'm going to create multiple level defenses. You're looking at to see how those defenses react to the pen test and to the scan, right? And so it's not just process, it's not just product.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's really more than just vulnerability scanning. It's active penetration testing against open ports, right? So things that should trigger a reaction by your defenses, right? People are paying a ton of money for these products. I think it's important that we validate that these products are configured properly and that their investment is paying off.
That's a great point. You know, I do have to say that when we go do a lot of installs, we just did an install for a company in Texas that does work with tractors and equipment. They had the alerts on, but that was it. And so when their alerts came in, they never looked at them. They just felt that if the system was alerting, it was in prevention mode, they didn't have to look at anything, right? And so a lot of times, products can do a lot more than just, hey, I'm alerting and preventing, right? There's a lot more data in there than just that. There's also gaps, right? A lot of alerts don't tell you who the user is or what the device is. So you got to do a lot to see if you have the ability to chain that data back to the problem. So I'm used to really the defensive part of it. Now, the pen test stuff, man, I'm old in the pen test stuff. I mean, I don't even want to say the type of tools we used. But then, of course, Metasploits come around, and I kind of think like a lot of the assessment companies really don't have any intelligence in their assessment. They basically buy a high-end scanner and they scan it. Right now, you're there competing against these people, these other companies in assessments. I mean, what do you see in the assessment world? Do you see the bread and butter guys that just scan it and are lowballing, or do you find pen testing is advanced beyond the scanners?
I see a lot of both, actually, right? You can probably Google, I want a pen test for under $1,000 and get 20, 30 respondents, right? And they will all probably just do the exact same thing. Either use an open source like OpenVAS to do an external vulnerability scan, or maybe Acunetics or any of these products, right, that can do those things. Rapid7 has a couple of tools, Tenable has some tools. But that's all you're going to get, right?
Right.
The more expensive the pen test I don't want to say the better it is, but I think you, in a sense, get what you pay for, because when you want to actually validate that your defenses are operating properly and efficiently and you're secure, you need to go just beyond, here's an open port, here's the OS enumeration, here are some potential CVEs that you should be watching out for. You want someone to actively attack. But it's as without seeing how your systems are reacting to that attack, you don't know if, even if this intruder, let's say the pen tester doesn't get through, that doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't, right? But if you're not seeing the result of that failed test in your logs, then you won't know. You won't actually know when someone does get through.
Yeah, that's a great point. So that goes back to the cyber health check, right? So what you're really saying is that, listen, I can go through and do my scanning, my analysis, and I can say, hey, here's a list of my vulnerabilities. But then you have to say, you know what, from your security posture, what did your network do or see when the attacks were going on? How did the posture itself react to the attack, right? So were there processes in place that said, hey, when this alert went off, do this, like a playbook? Or even just
Right.
the people in general, how do the people in general respond? Now, I know a lot of companies, they'll do a pen test and they won't tell the MSSP a pen test is going on, right?
That's right.
Their favorite thing to do. Sometimes it backfires and the poor MSSP is getting tons of alarms and they're freaking out and they're calling up. And other times they don't see it, obviously, right? But let's talk about it.
Yeah, we've had that experience.
Yeah, but is it the fault of the MSSP? If they're not getting the alarms they need, is it because they didn't push the client to say, give me more data? Or why do you think that exists? Do you think it's because the MSSP is bad? Well, obviously there's some bad MSSPs out there, right? I'm not going to say there aren't, but is some of it
Sure.
just the fact that the client doesn't have enough data that's passed on to the MSSP that they have the ability to validate or analyze the data?
It could be. It could be a number of things. It could be a misconfiguration. It could be a misprioritization of the alert within the system that is ingesting the event. It could be that it's just flat out missed, right? It could be that some attacker's already gone in there and suppressed something and they don't know that it's suppressed, right? Because they've been a persistent threat for a long time, right? And so they've already gone in and they've manipulated your Palo Alto configuration. So you think you're actually sending logs, but you're not, right? Or you're whatever. So there's a number of reasons. There could be that sometimes because of the expense of MSSP services or MDR services, or even SIM services, right? Mm-hmm. That you choose not to ingest all the data that you should be ingesting. You choose, because of the cost, to say, I'm only going to ingest these things here because compliance says I need to do that, or other CISOs are doing it this way, right? And that's how they're getting around the cost of SIM or the cost of MSSP.
It's an interesting point. So now you're bringing up cost, which obviously, and early on I talked about, I guess trying to decide what we're giving the MSSP. That's based upon cost. What do I have? How do I configure it? Do I have the money to configure it? So in general, from a CISO's point of view, they need to make decisions based upon cost, right? And I'm going to pay you to come and do a cyber healthcare check. So how is it economically beneficial? I mean, I kind of can figure it out, but maybe this is a softball question. How's it beneficial to do a healthcare check when I know the more money I put into my defense, the better off I am?
It's the cyber health check isn't. It's intended. First of all, the output of the experience, the output of the cyber health check is a report. It is a top-to-bottom report that encompasses everything that was found during the vulnerability scan portion of the event to the pen testing portion, plus all of the data that's been collected over a 30-day period of time from your internal devices. Mm-hmm. All of those logs, your AD logs, your Linux logs, your server logs, your routers and switches, all that data is going to be ingested in. And you're going to get the output of all of that in a comprehensive report that outlines these are your potential risks these are active threats, or these are things that are actively occurring. These are your potentials. These are where you need, and the things that you need to fix in order to remediate the things that were found.
Okay,
right?
so you get done with it, you find all these things, you give recommendations. I would say, since I paid money to do it, I'm going to turn around to my group, my SOC or my NOC group, and I'm going to say, here's a list of the things they found. Let's pound them out. Let's correct them. Are you going to come back and do it again, like 6 months from now, a year from now? What do you recommend they do? So let's say I try to fix these things up. I turn to you. I don't really want you to be as involved with fixing them, because I'm going to turn to you and try to find problems later on, right?
Right.
So I mean, what's the best way of looking at this? What can I, what I should do? Should I, my next steps are what?
So actually, after the report's delivered,
Yeah.
your next step would obviously be to fix them. And if you have an internal team, use your internal team to fix them. Use your MSSP or MSP partner to fix the things that need to be fixed. But I would agree with you. I don't think Fortify, should be the person to fix the problems, because if we're going to be the assessor, we want to recuse ourselves from doing the remediation, right? So we definitely need to find a remediation partner. But we recommend assessments for all businesses at least once a year. Obviously, there are entities that are governed by regulatory things like HIPAA and SOX and so on, and those, they have a different assessment requirement. PCI has a different assessment requirement.
It's an assessment requirement against requirements, right? So you go in there and you say, here's my requirements. And it's really an analysis of, do your processes support requirements themselves, right? But and it's a best practice kind of approach. I mean, I remember early on in the early days of security, for me, early days, like 91, 92, the argument was, if I gave you a checklist, your security would become that checklist. And there's a huge fear that would become a checklist-oriented type of process. So instead of us going through frameworks and analysis, that all you care about is the checklist. And to tell you the truth, that fear still exists today. There's two camps out there of CISOs. CISOs that say, here's my HIPAA, here's my PCI, I'm going to buy Cisco, and I'm going to buy, McAfee, and I'm going to buy the top known brands, and then I'm just going to drink and party my ass off because there's nothing else I need to do, right? And there's another group of people that I guess are more geekish, that are ivory tower, and they say, I'm going to work on this, I'm going to work on this, and they're going to take as much money as they can to secure it because they're focused on security, right?
Right.
And the big fear from the upper level management is, well, if I get that kind of guy, I'm going to be spending more money than I need, right? Because one of the things I tell my people is that security is a leaky boat. All I care about is crossing the river. I don't really care, as long as I don't sink, I don't care much what water's in my boat, right? I mean, economically, I just want to make sure I can do business, because in the end all, security is to allow me to do business, right?
It's true. But I think that's a dangerous thought process to allow there to be a leaky boat, right?
Well, to allow it, but to an extent, right? But do I really want to buy another thing, right? And it's an argument of interest. I think that at least there has to be a low bar, and I have to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I know not only best practice, it's good, right? But your big fear from management is you really need to spend that money, right? It's like, oh, that's a lot of money. I'll give you a good example. You brought up MDR, and that's a very awesome term, right? Managed detection and response. That's cutting edge, right? It's hot as could be in the venture capital world. But it's kind of an interesting twist, right? Is that, well, isn't MSSP good enough, right? I kind of like MDR because MDR talks about less of a facility infrastructure, more of an endpoint security kind of view of the world, right? Where you say, I'm going to recover that machine. You've got 3 basic products out there, and I don't mean to belittle Cylance and CrowdStrike, but you've basically got CyberReason. I got the owl on my head, right? CyberReason, Carbon Black, and SentinelOne, right? Those are the big 3 on the EDR space. The event detection response or endpoint detection response, depending on who you talk to, platforms versus the traditional EPP. which is the pure prevention guys, the endpoint protection. And you know which product you have because I can bring up interaction with my endpoint from an admin point of view and recover that box remotely. And if I can't do that, I can't be an MDR because I can't do the R.
Right. That's right. And that's unfortunately where a number of the endpoint products fall down, right? As you said, Cylance is a great product. It has a great ED. It has a great ED tool, and it with some R capabilities, but it doesn't have that remote login, repair. It just has a number of reactive things. Yeah.
Yeah, Stu did a great job, and I remember when George came out with CrowdStrike, you know, it was awesome because all of a sudden now that person could be at a coffee shop and I was getting my alerts in the events, right? And Silence went down the whole thing about you being on my segment to get my data from you is gone, right? With these cloud-oriented capabilities. And let's go back to the cyber health check because I think it's I'm trying to mentally tie this back into it, is that this is a good example of when I did my pen test and I ran this, right? A cyber healthcare check actually has to care about my mobile devices, my IoT, my cloud services, right? Not just a facility. And I think the days of facility security is absolutely gone. With the virus out right now, between stay-home workers, right? And with SD-WAN, which, you know, we're working with West Networks and with SD-WAN with Peplink, and what a industry that really needs vision, right? Because now you're talking about split tunneling and scattering of data, and you're your job is freaking wrangling cats. I mean, you're wrangling mice at this point. I mean, cats are nice compared to what you deal with SD-WAN, right?
But it's a solution everybody's adopting because they have to, because the cost of traditional telco is so expensive.
So how do you deal with that? Before you go too far, how do you deal with the new architectures in assessment? Like if you have mobile and you have remote offices and you have cloud services, is that inside the assessment of the cyber healthcare?
It is. However, there's some but there, right?
Yeah,
whatever it is,
Amazon will not let you hack them. I can give you a story with the U.S. government. They do not let you evaluate their security. They give you this your SOC 2 Type 2 and say live with it, but they don't want you to burst their bubble and let them know how many faults they have between their containers. Yeah.
Right. In fact, even when we're doing the assessment, the customer has to let Amazon or GCP or AWS or Azure notify them that there's going to be a test going on, so that they don't actually start blocking our traffic, which ironically is coming from Amazon and Azure, right? So the issue is that we need to be able to get log data out of the devices in these different fields, right? So if that is, let's say you're running an endpoint like Checkpoint Sandblast Mobile, right, on your mobile endpoint devices, then we can get syslog data or CEF data from there. If you have an MDM, we can get the data from the MDM and bring it into the assessment. If you have cloud servers, we can put a logger agent on and pull out the event log data from that machine. If you have cloud Linux servers, obviously we can configure syslog or syslog D to send the data to the assessment.
Yeah, so that's what you're doing. So what you're doing right now is, I mean, you're going back to like our bread and butter, right? Collect everything. So right now what you're talking about is you can do a chain of evidence analysis without necessarily performing an attack, right? So you can go back and say, just based upon normal noise of the internet, can I see all your assets? Are your assets all talking to me? Can I analyze who owns that asset or who owns that process, right? Which is a big jump.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. All right, I'm getting near my end of my beer. Maybe I'm too quick of a drinker for you. Are you done already?
Hey, I've got about 2 fingers.
There you go. 2 fingers is good. So we're gonna have one day we're gonna have a show. We're gonna say I'm gonna have to get another beer. This lockdown is killing me. I have to tell you, like, you know how hard it is to find decent beer when they shut all the stores down? I mean,
Yes.
that and toilet paper.
I was really lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Toilet paper I still haven't found. But I was really lucky the Sunday before they shut California down, basically.
Yeah.
My wife and I were able to go meet up with with her brother and sister-in-law at the not Wolf Creek, Stone Brewery in Pasadena.
Oh, so you like
So we got
movie lines, Fear movie lines. I'm a big, you know me. This is I moved away from my Fears movie line just so you wouldn't insult me on it again. So.
I know, I like it. I like Stone. Some of their like arrogant bastard, and that's just a little too aggressively hoppy for me.
I like the
hazy. I like the hazy.
It's sweeter. I like the juicier, hazier stuff lately. The double IPAs. They're
Yeah, I like the hazy IPA.
Double IPAs. So, but I don't really.
For our next show, I'm gonna definitely have a hazy to show you.
I told you I'm gonna get you some Sweet Baby Jesus. Get you that peanut butter chocolate malt that they got up here at the Claw up in Baltimore. I mean, we have some people that I think drank a little too much when they decided to come up with the next flavor of their beer.
Have you ever had the Samuel Smith's oatmeal stout?
Love it. Oh my God, the Imperial oatmeal.
That is pretty good.
Yeah, it's Samuel Smith. I was going to say, Samuel Smith one is that's
it's delicious too.
That was my first introduction into a real beer, and I'm like, okay, I just can't afford that at the time,
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap up, here comes Al.
He's back.
Forget about Al. I was going to try to wrap it up, Al, but since you're going to be the referee on this one, so did we cover any points that are worth it for a person that would actually have to sit through all this crap?
I would say that was a great discussion today, guys, and
okay.
Not only about cyber health checks, right, but also about the beer. So as we look at the benefit of
wait, show your beer. Show me how low we go at this place. No, you can't even see her. There you go. A Bud Light.
Oh,
a Bud Light.
Bud Light.
Some of us have similar.
That reminds me of the old Guinness joke about Mr. Coors and Mr. Anheuser going to Ireland, and they meet the owners of Guinness over there, and of course Anheuser, he orders a Bud, and Coors orders a Coors, but Mr. Guinness, he orders a water. And they're like, what are you doing over getting a water? He goes, well, if you're going to drink water, I'm going to drink water.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Al. Yeah.
See, Al gets that, but he doesn't know what Guinness is.
I do know what Guinness is. I was in the Navy. So.
And by the way, I saw a great BuzzFeed or Twitter posting where everybody took pictures of like their beer stock, and there's all the Corona left over. And somebody over in Denmark took a picture, and all the Denmark beers there, and the Corona's missing. He goes, "We have a dark sense of humor here."
There you go. So listen, we covered a lot of ground with this cyber health check.
All right, you can cut us out now.
One of the things that's important as companies are out there working feverishly and overtime to get their employees on a remote basis, right, to help the stay-at-home orders and get this COVID-19 under control, it's important to note that a lot of their behaviors that are in their personal life will tend to stay in place using business assets and business networks. And that exposure alone is very, very critical for companies to consider. And that's why things like the cyber health check is so important.
Yeah, personally, I love the idea when Jeremy pitched it to me. I just think that every assessment I've ever seen has been, can I get in? Can I scan? I don't even know the Black Hills guys, but I think that when I heard them speak about every assessment's a threat hunt, that they would go in there and threat hunt and find problems just in the data alone, I agree with them 100%. I think that there's so much to learn from a customer's data, and to hire an assessment group to go in there and create more data without looking at their own, what's happening on their own network is crazy, right? I can't tell you how many people who do professional threat huntings, and I don't want to throw it, but there was a medical place up in Dallas area that we did a response to we did 2 major hospitals in Dallas, but one we walked in there and they had a piece of ransomware that was encrypting all the files. And we found one botnet after another botnet. We found 3 botnets in the hospital before we finally got to the one that was changing and cryptoing up their files. And my point is that when you do these threat hunting assessments, you use type of healthcare checks, and you're actually looking at the raw data, you'd be blown away how many problems you see. I mean, Al's, when he does our stuff, I mean, we're walking through, and granted, we don't find, botnet after botnet, but we definitely find bad behavior and things that just should have been blocked all the time. Right? That you just see the writing on the wall that just wait for guy to get something and click it. And we just talked to one customer that they thankfully had one guy call up and say, hey, is this person supposed to send me an email? And they validated and said, oh my God, no, that the email was literally, that person's account was spoofed and they were about to start writing checks.
So Jeremy, any final
that impersonation fraud, and just to touch on what Chris was saying, is that impersonation is absolutely huge right now, especially with COVID-19, because I belong to a cyber threat intelligence community that's specifically focused on COVID-19 and providing free response services to the entire healthcare community across the planet. So companies from Microsoft and Google and all the security companies and are joined together to pull response together. And impersonation is a huge aspect of what's happening right now. People need to be very vigilant when they're looking at the emails, especially people who are working from home now.
I got some ideas of people pull, and I think maybe Sloppy can bring in.
So the latest example that I've seen, to your point, Jeremy, is that with this fear that everybody has to get an email in your reader that says you were in contact with an individual who has tested positive, click here. What's the average person going to do? That's
100% click.
Some of the latest.
It's funny. I think now you're getting into social engineering. That's the reason why I thought of Sloppy's buddy is that, listen, I mean, we used to joke around in the government all the time. If you sent an RFP, a request for a proposal, to any sales guy, and they're going to click it. That's money. That's their job.
Absolutely.
Right. So there is definitely, listen, now I got to figure out who we're going to talk to next, because there's a lot that can be talked about this. And most of those people have really good stories, but that will be a 2-beer time where we're just going to sit back and drink and listen, I think. All right, Al, wrap me up. Bring me home, baby.
All right, listen, we appreciate everybody dialing in for this brand new episode of Beer and Chips, and we are looking forward to our next episode.
Wax
Beers and Bytes.
All right, our beer. We want to thank everybody for dialing in to this Beer and Bytes episode, and we look forward to the next episode that we'll talk more in depth about this social engineering.
Awesome.
And we promise the next one will be better.
And
more professional.
We're gonna get worse and worse. I like bad.
Now we just
the bigger beers.
Go find the guinea pig for the Chris and Jeremy show.
Yeah, we gotta go find someone who wants to talk to us, which could be hard. Mine's empty. What did you think?
This show is not sponsored by Duckfoot, but I am promoting their beer because it's delicious.
I'm going to came out with solace, even though I'm a Danish drinker. Danish, I got to get my hands on some Ghost Fleet, but COVID-19 is really putting a damper on me getting out there. But maybe I'll risk a ticket and get out there.
All right, well, that's a wrap.